I can truly not believe that there was nothing in the beginning. Everything cannot emerge from nothing.
There must have been at least a tiny inkling of an idea, a thin thread of thought, a yearning that led us further to more.
I like this feeling beneath my fingers, warm and inviting. I am in harmony as I invite the forest into my house.
Gaze upon the world with different eyes, trying to solve the riddle in new ways. Connect the unconnected is my challenge.
I bring surprise, but that is not enough. Anyone can shock, but I want to have an influence, leave my mark.
A single vantage point does not suffice. I want to evaluate and master my creation with all my knowledge.
The commotion, the bubbling, the storm, as it's decanted and divided, it is also enriched and multiplied.
No one can teach me everything, but I want to learn the most from everyone.
I dream in color, which is why a black and white life is not enough.
I want the wind and the sun, the moon and the stars, the clouds and the sea. I want to trust and hope, to be and to go, and return to the new beginnings. This is my inspiration. This is my yearning.
Dobro jutro, spoštovane študentke, študenti, naši profesorji, učitelji, naši domači in tuji gosti. Zaključujemo Going Green Global Design teden z zadnjim dogodkom, ki smo ga namenili predvsem našim mladim in njihovi prihodnosti. Warm welcome our dear students, our dear experts, professors, our national and international guests who have been our guests in these past days during Going Green Global Design Week. I would like to express that I'm really happy today because the whole morning will be here only for the future of our young talents, for the future of your planet, and of course all possibilities which are on the market for your wonderful design and design management profession. I would like to introduce our guest, Mr. Steiner Velatam-Land, who shared his great knowledge with our students for many, many years. He will close a little later to us. Especially greetings is to our President of Students' Council, Mr. Clement Oswald. He is already employee as a student of Design Management Department. And I'm really happy because he has some advice how from school to market. Am I right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Clement, dobrodošli.
Yeah, hvala.
Warm welcome. I would like also to represent Manta Matici-Zver, our General Manager of House of Design Management and Innovation, and Walding for International Affairs, and of course our alumni, also already employee on Faculty of Design, Mr. Domen Law, who is leading the whole thing this week. Very excellent. Thank you very much, Domen. It was excellent. He will represent also the Young Alumni Club. So students, today we are going to speak about New European Bauhaus platform, which is establishing in the Europe. So, Mr. Steiner, the stage is yours. Please, warm welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Nada. I've had a pleasure of being part of the program all week, and I must say there have been some very, very strong discussions about what design can do in the context of the challenges that we see right now. Not only COVID, but the overriding challenges of environment, of social unrest, political unrest. Those are interesting times. And I think the discussion that I want to bring up with you is how can design be part of making this future little bit more safer, perhaps a little bit more predictable, and perhaps more than anything, a little bit more human friendly. And that's something that I hope that you will join in the discussion with me. I don't know, Clement, we had an exchange yesterday. Do you want to say something before we start the show?
Yeah, see, yesterday we talked about in mailing, and we have, I see your presentation, it was so nice, and you see how globally problematic about sustainability, and yeah, we'll discuss about this today.
Good, very good. So, Domen, could you please put on my presentation and we'll go ahead.
Here you go.
Thank you. Right now, I can see a screen with a screen in it, and a screen within that, and a lot of screens. Is that what it looks like out there?
Yes, it's really tricky.
Yeah. Okay. You want because it's behind there somewhere.
Yeah, just switch to the other program. Just switch to the PDF. You don't need to share anything, just switch to the other program.
Okay, like that.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I've called my presentation the EU's Green Deal and New Bauhaus, obviously because those are very present and very, let's say, there are issues and discussions which are taking place now on the very, very highest level of Europe, but also around in companies and organizations all over Europe. And I also call the presentation the key to unprecedented opportunities for design, because that is my true opinion, that design has never been as sought after, has never been as interesting to people in power as it is today. Design has been around for ages, but over the last let's say 4 or 5 years, design has dramatically changed its role in how people in organizations, power like politicians and also people in industry, how they see the potential of design. So that is what I will spend some time on today. I think the allegory of Alice is so good. One of the things that Alice asks the cat in Alice in Wonderland is, which way should I go? And the cat asks, yeah, but where is it you want to go? And Alice says, well, I'm not exactly sure where I want to go. And the cat says, well, then it doesn't really matter which way we take. I think for designers, it is extremely important to know, what is it that I want? What is my goal? What is it that I want to achieve? Then you can look at what kind of route you want to take to get there. Right now, I think it's crucial for designers and design students to ask themselves 2 questions. One of them is, which challenges do I see as the most imminent, the most important right here and now? And how do I believe that design can be key to solving it? That is something we all who are engaged in design have to pose ourselves and each other. What can design do about this? Sorry. And then the other question is, how do you see your own role as a designer changing because of the unrest, the climate changes, the pandemics, and all this uncertainty that we see around it? I don't think that the role of being a designer in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years will look anything like being a designer in the 80s or the 90s or the zeros looked like. So having a clear sort of understanding of what it is that you want as a designer, and how do you see your future as a professional player in this? Those 2 questions are important to ask yourself. I'm not going to give you the answers to that today. I will just raise a few discussions, and hopefully that's something that you can take with you in your own considerations of your professional future. We're living in a world of unresolved major challenges. The last year, of course, has been extremely sort of colored by the pandemic, COVID-19. And I think we have to prepare ourselves for getting used to that. This pandemic will continue for a while. It will change. It will go up and down. But it's not the last time we see a situation of this kind. The question is rather, how often do we have to deal with it in the future? So this is just one of the very sort of concrete experiences that we have with the changes that are taking place. But we live in times where there are massive changes going on in the environment. Biodiversity, species are disappearing every single day. People still live in poverty. We don't hear about it now because we're so concerned about our own vaccines, but there are still massive problems and challenges out there. But some of them, most of them, can actually be solved not by designers on their own, but by designers helping to find intelligent, future-proof solutions to those problems. The United Nations have been concerned about the environment and of creating a sustainable future for many, many years. Back in 1987, the former Norwegian Prime Minister, Gro Harlem Brundtland, was asked by the United Nations to form a commission to look at sustainability. How do we create a more sustainable world? This was in 1987. I know that most of you, or probably none of you, were born at that time. So it goes quite a long back. It's, what is it, 34 years ago. But already then, the Commission came up with a formula for how to create a better and more sustainable future. One was, we will have to rely on continued economic growth, but we have to match that with environmental protection and with social innovation and social equality. That was the formula. And the slogan for the report was, we have to meet the needs of today without compromising the needs of tomorrow. And even though this is 34 years old, this statement, it holds 100% also today. And since 1987 and until today, the international organizations with the United Nations and the European Union as drivers have spent massive resources on trying to figure out how do we do this in a way which doesn't stop our development, which is acceptable to our populations, and which is still a positive development and progress, but at the same time without compromising the one planet that we have and which cannot be exchanged. The newest response to this is the EU Commissioner Ursula von der Leyen, who came up with a new program only in November 2020, which she called the New Bauhaus. And this is a response to a strategy that the EU have decided on long ago, which was the European Union's Green Deal. I'll come back to both of those. We have also had a number of different bodies who have tried to find out, because it's so crucial for addressing these issues, how do young people see their future? What kind of problems do they foresee? What do they see as the most crucial, most important problems? And this survey made by the World Economic Forum in 2017 shows that the most imminent and most sort of serious, or the issue that most young people are aware of and afraid of, that's the climate changes, destruction of nature. But there are a lot of others: large-scale conflict, inequality, poverty, religious conflict, and so on. There is a list of challenges, and they're all big, and they're all sort of on a meta level. But we still have to discuss, how can you as designers play a role, not in sort of revolutionizing any of this, but in contributing to making those conflicts, those problems, less dominant in the future than they are if we do not address them. The Sustainable Development Goals. Some of you might have been part of some workshops that I've made at the Faculty of Design in trying to frame how design can address each individual SDG, Sustainable Development Goal. I will dwell a little on those because those are probably until now, the strongest sort of framework of discussing the future that we've ever had. The United Nations have worked since the Brundtland Commission started in 1987 by finding a way of not only just agreeing that we have a problem, but also in trying to establish some kind of a system and a mechanism for how do we address these problems systematically. In 2015, United Nations presented this framework of 17 goals, which are all sort of pointing to a challenge which can actually be solved. And somehow I would also say that the whole concept of developing the Sustainable Development Goals is probably one of the biggest design achievements of all times. 193 nations agreed on a framework of a set of problems or challenges with under challenges, with this sort of more detailed levels of challenge, and they also agreed in principle on how we need to act to alleviate, to reduce the effects of these problems. I think that is a design achievement which is very, very difficult to surpass. And you all know them, hopefully, at least some of them, or you have run across this image of the circle with the 17 multicolored shapes, each one of them containing an icon for a challenge. And again, I will not spend lots of hours on going into detail, but I still think that we need to go through them because they are somehow the framework of what it is that we need to consider individually. Can I make a difference here as a designer? The first one is poverty, and I think we had a number of good examples in the workshops in Ljubljana of how designers can address this. Very much on the communication side, make people in our part of the world, make them aware of the fact that poverty actually exists. It's not something that belongs to the past, and it's not something that belongs to Africa or to the third world. Poverty also exists in our part of the world. And this is something that we can actually make a difference to change as designers. Hunger. Children are going hungry to bed every single night. And we're not talking about a few, we're talking about billions. Literally billions of people cannot sustain a living in a way where they go to bed in the evening and feeling that they've had the nutrition and the food they need. That is also something we can address by help of design. Health and well-being. That is much, much broader. And I think probably this is one of the areas where today most designers in Europe are actually working. Because one of the biggest changes we've seen in the design industry or design environment over the last 10, 15 years is the emergence of service design. And service design is something that has been adopted to a large extent by the public sectors around Europe and the rest of the world, because they have seen that in terms of creating societies which are better at dealing with health issues more effectively, but also more humanly, and also to secure better aging, better social services for people who are sort of falling outside of the mainstream system. that is something that can actually be addressed by and solved by design. So today, the public sector of Europe is the biggest employer of designers. That is quite interesting. That was unthinkable 20 years ago. And that will continue. Education is also an area where design has a massive role to play, not least because education is about communication, communicating a message in a way so people understand it and can take it to the heart and replicate it. And that is communication design. And not only the books and the props that you need, but also how do you actually communicate knowledge? How do you build new ways of learning? That is one of the areas where I really think that designers can. One of the 17 sustainable development goals, which is very sort of right here and now design relevant. Gender equality. We think that we have come quite far in Europe, and we have come further than many other places, but there's still a long way to go. And just having the concern of gender equality at the back of your mind when you design products, services, communication is important. And that doesn't cost anything. It doesn't necessarily have to make you do anything differently or design anything else, but just to have that in mind, that when I design for people, I design for both genders, for all kinds of people. Number 6, water and sanitation. That is more technical, and I'm not convinced that most designers are sort of have the skills to solve it in terms of sort of technical solutions. But we also know that some of the biggest enterprises in Europe work with this. There is a company in Denmark called Grundfos, which is the pure water supplier of the world in a way, because they have a mission, and that is that no one should live their life without access to clean water. And that is probably one of the most purely design-driven companies that we have in Denmark. And not to brag on behalf of the Danes, but that means something. It means that design has proven its role in addressing an issue like this. Affordable clean energy, that is probably one of the biggest issues. And if we look at what's happened the last decade or so in terms of just electrical cars. Today, no car maker would dream of introducing a car model which is not also delivered in as a hybrid or as an electrical car. 10 years ago, you couldn't find them. You could find a lousy sort of early version Tesla and a Nissan Leaf. That was it. Today, all car makes have electrical vehicles, and that is just the beginning. I think that we will see that new and cleaner and affordable technologies will make the fossil fuel issue that we are facing obsolete within perhaps the next 10 years. And I think that designers will play a big role in doing that. Not necessarily in finding the source of energy, but of applying it in a way which is attractive and easy for the customer or for the client or for the user. Decent working growth. That is something that in any case, not only can, but have a responsibility of relating to as designers. Because if you design a product for a company somewhere in Europe, the chances are that some components or the whole product will be manufactured somewhere else in the world, in China, in Bangladesh, in whatever. And being aware of how products are being manufactured, by whom, under which conditions. That is a part of your responsibility as a designer. If you design something which is sort of what a business case is about having it produced in Vietnam, then you need to know that it can be done under responsible circumstances. That is your responsibility, among many, many others, as a designer. Innovation and infrastructure. Again, back to electrical cars, and they will be driving themselves pretty soon. People say, I don't know, we'll see. But innovation is much more than just self-driving cars. It's also about finding ways of organizing traffic, both of people and of objects, of finding better ways of reducing transportation times, transportation distances, and also then energy consumption. So it's not just about moving a car from A to B, it's also the whole infrastructure and the system. So here, design thinking, system thinking, design, organizational design will be a massive and crucial component of actually addressing the challenges that we have in this field. Reduced inequalities. We talked about poverty earlier. That is one issue, but we also have the issue that inequalities, the fact that there are some very big differences in parts of the world in terms of your access to having a decent income, and your access to services, your access to a good life. It's not necessarily about poverty, but it's about the difference between those who have and those who haven't. That's a political issue. And I will not go into that because that would open a totally different discussion. But what we know for sure is that those issues, those inequalities, they create tensions. And those tensions, they create a lot of problems for people, especially in cities. So there is a sort of a value chain here where designers can really make a difference in reducing inequalities, and through that to create better lives for a lot of people. Sustainable communities, that is sort of the overall sort of heading for this, but the UN approach to this is that in all parts of the world we see a massive urbanization. People are moving to the cities, and people are living more and more dense, and this brings with it a lot of challenges, not only of crime and of sort of social issues, but we can see now over the last year with COVID, there is a direct sort of correlation between how dense the community is and the level of contagion. The more people who live on in small spaces, the higher the level of infection with COVID is. So there is a lot of issues related to how we create sustainable communities, not by giving necessarily people a lot of space, but by making the spaces that we have as safe and as meaningful as possible, so that people can have good lives also in spaces which are not abundant. It's probably one of the sort of the most complex challenges that we have among the 17, but it's also one where there is a myriad of different design challenges to go into. Responsible consumption. When I ask designers where can they make a difference in general, most designers pick number 12 as the most obvious one. Because as designers, you have more than any other profession influence on the materials of a product, both what kind of material and the amount of material, the manufacturing processes, and the way in which this will be treated in terms of different, which colors to use and which chemicals to use and all that. And then the next level is what kind of packaging are we talking about, what kind of distribution and all that. Responsible consumption is all about design. It's nothing else. Responsible consumption is about coming up with better alternatives to what is there already on the shelves, not only to introduce green alternatives, but also to reduce the footprint of all products that we design, manufacture, and sell to each other. So this is probably the sort of the open box of opportunities for designers to make a difference. Climate action, big issue, and it's too big to sort of break into parts here, but it's clearly also part of the last discussion, because it is very much about what kind of chemicals, products, substances do we use, so that what kind of CO2 emissions will a product have, for example, when being recycled or being disposed of. And this influences directly on the climate around us. So it's a big issue. The role of design is clearly there, but it's a complex discussion to find exactly how that plays a role. This is interesting because life below water is very much about waste. We see both fish or fish and shell deer, what is called shellfish, and mammals living in the oceans. They when they are being captured, we see that they contain massive amounts of plastic waste. That's insane. We are actually polluting the oceans to a degree. So this photo, even though I suspect it might possibly be manipulated, it gives an impression of what we're actually doing to our oceans right now. We are killing them with waste. And that is something that goes directly back to what kind of product have you designed and manufactured, and how will that end its life? Is it something that has a value when the original purpose was brought to an end, or is it something that people will just throw away? And we know that if people just throw away, no matter how good systems we have, some of that waste will end in places where it shouldn't be. One of those places is below water, and it is quite disturbing to see how much waste there is also in a river or a fjord. When we go for a walk on a Sunday here, it's really devastating. Life on land is very much about biodiversity, to make sure that we give the animal life that we have left a chance to survive. As I said at the very beginning, every single day species die and disappear forever. They will never come back. And we have a responsibility also as designers to make sure that the species that we now have left, that we give them the best possible conditions. And that is, amongst other things, reducing waste, but also of making sure that there is a land that these species can live on and thrive on. We're getting to the end. Peace and justice is very much about communication. For me, it's about making people understand that peace and justice is not something you can take for granted in large parts of the world. And as long as people know, people will have an urge to do something about it. The problem is that, again, with COVID and a lot of other big issues, problems or issues like peace and justice seem to lose in the competition with other issues. So very little is being discussed and talked about the grave issues around peace and justice that we have. Communication designers, it's your privilege, because you know how to communicate complicated messages to people. It's your privilege to bring out this or any other issue that you feel is important and underestimated. And then finally, partnerships, number 17, which is sort of across everything, but which is all about no one can do any of this on their own. All these issues are so complex and so massive that we have to work together. And working together is hard. We know all about the silos, professional silos, and we all have our own interests, and we have our little world, and that's what's important, and the rest is sort of someone else have to take care of that. One of the sort of tools and methods that is fundamental to design is to bring people together to come up with solutions. Co-creation and stakeholder engagement and bringing in people in processes, that is something that designers are better at than anyone else. And I believe that that is one of the places where designers should really look for opportunities, both in terms of developing new ways of bringing people together, working together, but also business opportunities. Companies, organizations are crying for people who are good at doing this. And they look all kinds of places. They don't very often look for designers because they don't know that designers can do this. But the reason why they don't look for this kind of skills in designers is that designers in general have been lousy at telling the world that that is one of their key competences. So to sort of round off the SDG, this Sustainable Development Goals presentation, please look at all the opportunities that you have to create and to facilitate partnerships, collaboration, co-creation, and conversation between people who can address, either together with you or amongst themselves, the 16 other issues. So the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, they are there. And since they came 6 years ago, they have changed the way industry looks at and talks about sustainability. The Sustainable Development Goals have become a framework that most, I would say most intelligent and mature companies, they have written it into their strategies one way or another. Now it's up to you as designers and many other disciplines, many other professions, to capture that opportunity and say, okay, they are actually, they want this, they have ambitions on this. How can I play a role? How can I bring my competences and my skills to the table? Then, not very long ago, the European Union introduced their, not parallel, because it's not sort of competing with the Sustainable Development Goals, but their ambition on how to live up to this. And in principle, the Green Deal that all European countries have not only agreed on, but have committed to, consists principally of three elements. One is that by 2050, there should be no emission of greenhouse gases. So the CO2 and all that, the calculus for that, it should be neutral. There should be no strains on the planet coming from emissions in 2050. The other one is that we have to accept and we have to work towards continued economic growth, but this growth should be resource neutral. We have to find a balance between continuing our growth and our development as societies and as a race, but without that implying an extra burden on nature. So that is the second goal, very concrete goal of the European Union in the Green Deal. And the third one is the principle of no one left behind, meaning that we have to make sure that the development, both intellectually, economically, and in all other ways, that it is not confined to some hotspots in Europe, the cities, Frankfurt and Paris and other fancy places, but also the countryside, smaller regions which are not as powerful and as wealthy as others, that they are also taken by their hand to be part of this development. My postulate is that while the design community on a design policy level actually has been accepted as a role in this, design practitioners, designers, they are still sitting on the fence and not really understanding that this is a fantastic opportunity for them. The understanding of design's role in fostering a future built on sustainability and resilience, it's very complex, but it's also something that influences on all levels of society, and it is by no means reflected neither in design education nor in the way that designers work. So there is a massive gap between what is going on in Brussels and in organizations, in big companies, of understanding of what design could potentially do and of what designers believe that they can contribute. We have to build a bridge between these, because otherwise designers will fall off and someone else will come in and do what designers could have done. We are seeing it already by design companies all over the world being bought by large consultancies like KPMG and McKinsey and others. That is not because they love design. That is because they can see that design is a way of solving problems that they don't have already in their portfolio, in their toolbox. So they want it as part of it. But unless the designers live up to that confidence, then they can easily be replaced by people with other backgrounds to do the same thing. So this is a golden opportunity, but it's also a missed opportunity unless the design committee wakens up. And what will this mean in terms of changing the way we talk about design education and design practice? In most European countries today, you can take a master in sustainable design. And that master is very much about solving problems of social change, of social impact, working with specific green solutions. It could be resilience problems, it could be climate security, it can be all kinds of, but very specific green issues. That is good, but what is missing is that designers who want to design clothes or furniture or decorative objects or interiors or graphics, whatever, that designers who have not sort of dedicated themselves to green projects, but who will dedicate themselves to design and make the products that we still need, and we will need, for many years. We will always need garments. We will always need stuff. Perhaps not as much of it as we have, but good products, good services, good communication will always be in demand. My problem is that the design schools across Europe who are teaching students within the classical design disciplines, industrial design, graphic design, interior design, they are not taking sustainability seriously enough in terms of the students understanding how can a product be part of the circular economy? How can we make sure that it is cradle to cradle certified, or at least live up to the principles? How can we measure the impact of a product? How can we measure the footprint of it? All these methods and models, they are there. It's not something we have to sort of invent. They are there, but they are not part of design education, and it's very rarely a part of design practice. That is something that is a shame, because this would be part of lifting design up to a level where it will be more relevant to many who are not looking that way today. And also being able to assess, not only to know the models, but also in the processes that you work with, that you have models and measures for how you can document to your clients, and so that they can document to their clients that you are actually living up to certain standards. So designers need to understand life cycle assessment methods, and they need to understand sustainability assessments so that they can be part of that discussion. Because unless they understand this and bring it into their processes, the designers will be unlatched from the whole value chain. And then designers, as everyone else for that matter, need to understand that there are two issues at stake here. One is sustainability, and the other is resilience. We talk a lot about sustainability, but sustainability is about securing the future, making sure that in the future we make things smarter and less harmful, in less harmful ways than today. Resilience is basically about how do we cope with all the consequences of the decisions that someone made already long time ago. How do we cope with the consequences of global warming? How do we cope with the consequences of a much more volatile climate and flooding and what we see on television every day? So there are two different there's a choice to be made. I'm not saying that we have to change to either this or that, but I think that for many designers, the sensible choice will be to say, I will focus on resilient design, because that is about solving real problems which are already there. While others might say, I want to focus on sustainable design, which is much more about finding better ways of doing things going forward. That's also a discussion which I do not see in design circles. And then the new Bauhaus. I referred to the Green Deal, which is again fantastic because it's not only an ambition; it's a commitment from all European leaders and hence also from the European populations to reach those goals of zero emission and so on. In November 2020, as I said, Ursula von der Leyen, the EU the president of the Commission, introduced the new Bauhaus. I think what is fantastic about that message was, first of all, it is a recognition that the Bauhaus, the original Bauhaus, which had its 100th anniversary a year ago, that the thinking of Bauhaus, which has influenced on design education and design practice ever since, for a century, that might be the most effective way of of reaching the ambitions of the Green Deal. What the new Bauhaus basically says is that we have to combine technical skills, the economical understanding, and creativity to solve these problems. And it is a sort of almost a blank check for the design community and other creative competences to bring themselves into play by saying, good, we're here, let's start working together. It's probably the highest level recognition of design and what design can do to solve problems ever. And I think that that is an opportunity which we just have to grasp it. If we're not sort of exploiting this and making something wonderful out of it, well, then I think basically we have failed as a design profession and community. Sorry, I'm pushing the wrong buttons here. Sorry. And then there's the elephant in the room. So COVID-19. Is that good or bad? Of course it's bad. COVID-19 is terrible, and it has made a lot of people's lives miserable. It has taken a lot of life, and it's really something that none of us were prepared for, and it's very difficult to see where do we go from here. But we can also see that the emergence of COVID-19 had an influence on how people acted, and we could sort of see suddenly an agility in reacting that we've never seen before. In terms of within no time, designers and small manufacturers of different stuff started making masks and viziers and all kinds of props that were needed to protect ourselves, and it was quite amazing to see that the response time in March last year, we've never seen anything like it. We've seen in many ways the design community has a tendency of being a little sort of laid back. They have lots of time and okay, let's just see, and we want to sort of, suddenly they were just on the marks and they reacted right away. I think that the design community and also the community of startups and smaller companies really were put to a test, which somehow has been extremely valuable in proving that we can actually respond fast and effectively to situations like, for example, a pandemic. Sorry, it's just that I'm absolutely not comfortable with showing something in this mode. So here we are. It has also influenced organizations and institutions. Suddenly, we've seen how organizations had to work in new ways, had to boost their digitization and their ways of organizing work and organizing the lives of their people, because they had to. And what we're seeing now is that a lot of companies have achieved effectiveness goals, which they've been working on for 10, 15, 20 years and haven't reached. They have reached them within the last year because they had to, because the situations forced them to. So I know one company that from now on, no matter how long the COVID situation lasts, but from now on, they will work 4 days a week instead of 5 days a week, because during this period, they have found that they can produce as much as in 4 days a week now as they did in 5 days a week before. And then instead of saying, okay, then we can save some money, they've said, wonderful, then we can work 4 days a week. So it has also released something very interesting in terms of organizations and how we organize our life. And now I'm doing the right thing. And it has also influenced the frameworks of how we discuss long-term effects of a crisis, of collaboration across borders. And we haven't resolved this. But what I'm saying is that your grandparents, my parents, they always referred to the war. The war, during the war, we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that. And we had to be in at, there were curfew. And it's been so abstract. And suddenly, we haven't experienced the war, but we have experienced some of the effects of war, of crisis. And I know that might make myself unpopular by saying this. I think that was extremely healthy in a way. But it depends on one thing, and that is that we as creatives are able to take out inspiration from it and use that constructively to make the future better and less vulnerable to situations like this. So disruption and despair, they do catalyze, or they do drive creativity, and they also bring out the hidden talents. And I think that we should, not because we wanted COVID, not because it was good, but now when it was there, let us look for the positive thing that never did design prove its relevance to the extent that it has done over the last year, and never has design captured so many agendas simultaneously as it has over the last let's say the last year. So at the very end, before I sort of hope that there will be some discussion or questions, there are two issues which are important to relate to as designers in the sort of in the wake of climate, sustainability goals, New Deal, all this. Complexity and the systemic. We have to understand complexity, and it's a big issue in itself, but we have to understand that you can make something complicated. And that is one of the tasks of designers, is to not make things complicated, because making things complicated is silly. But complexity is not something you decide whether or not you want it. Complexity is there. A hospital is an extremely complex machine. You cannot take out sort of individual parts of it to make it simpler. Complexity is about interrelations and interdependency of components. As designers, I think we just have to get used to the fact that the world is getting more and more complex, and the organizations and the context that we are working in are getting more and more complex. And we have to understand the whole concept of complexity. Unless we do that, it's very difficult to address these issues in a meaningful way. And the other part is that we have to look at it systemically. Systemic is not the same as systematic. To work systematically is to do things in a certain order. You have a sort of a schedule and you do it, and it's very neat and all that. That is to focus on systematics. But systemic is about looking at the whole, not looking at one single thing at a time, but looking at the entire situation and how the different parts of the complexity fits together. And that's the other thing that designers need to become much, much better at, but they also have the tools to do it. To look at things from a sort of helicopter angle and see the system of how things play together to then start manipulating on the elements, the components of that system that do not work optimally. These two terms, complexity and systemics, they will be the keys to releasing and exploiting the potential of design in the context of big problems, because all the 17 problems that are part of the Sustainable Development Goal framework, they are all extremely complex. And they can only be solved if we see them in a systemic way. Sorry. Why? I'm very sorry about this. It's just that, again, yeah, sorry. There we are. Two quotes at the very end about this. The more we study the major problems of our time, the more we come to realize that they cannot be understood in isolation. They are systemic problems, which means that they are interconnected and interdependent. So that's what I tried to say. The 17 development goals and the challenges in them, they have to be looked at as systemic wholes because they are so interlinked and interdependent. And finally, systemic thinking is a way of thinking that emphasizes connectedness, enables people to see the bigger picture, one in which owner-solver solutions, problem-solving methods, and problem descriptions are portrayed as a whole system. So do not look for problems in isolation. When you see a problem, see, okay, how is that connected to actors in the system? How is it connected to symptoms, and so on. So I'll go back to the original question that I asked. What is the agenda that you want to pursue, and how do you make your project a meaningful part of that agenda? Which challenges do designers today see as the most imminent, and how do they think that design can be key to solving it? And how do you see your own role as a designer changing as a result of all these big changes that we see around us? These two questions have to be asked, and design education has to spend more time on discussing this with their design students, because otherwise these design students will come out with a lot of nice skills, but which are not applicable to the complexity of the world that they will be working in. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steiner. Do we hear each other?
Yeah, good, thank you. Well, I was just looking because I promised that it would last an hour, and it lasted 58 minutes. That's not bad.
That's not bad. Yeah, you're in time. Thank you, Mr. Steiner, to represent the concrete tips or 17 sustainable goals. How can we think, or how can we do think about design, or how can we do the design in our future? I think that you represent really exact tips about that. Thank you. Clement, do you have any more about that?
Nice presentation. Yeah, I'm working in fashion design, and this sustainability in this part of design is, China and Europe and pollution and everything. And yeah, as designers, we need to think about future about this.
Well, I have some kind of how can I say, my point of view, how I see design, how I see recovery through design, after COVID. And I think that, like Einstein said, it's all about vibrations. It's time. I can feel that it's time for design now, and not for an ego. It is time to rethink and to act. The quarantine was it was very bad, but in the other way, it was perfect time to see and to hear deeply, to identify and recognize the problems, issues, and advantages. Because nowadays, we cannot think and act just through intellectual or scientific perspective, but also through various aspects like knowledge of nature. We heard a lot about sustainability, pure spirit, and wisdom. Because I think that intellect without wisdom is just data without stories. And wisdom without intellect is just empty words. For successful impact, we have to combine both points of knowledge. We already have all knowledge how to live with nature from the past, from our grandparents. And we have rapidly advancing science. The point is now how to update and to connect these type of knowledges, boundaries, if you want. We designers or people who understand design processes, I think that we are in advantage. Why? Because we know that design is a tool to connect various points of views. The fil rouge of design is to connect our empathy, feelings, our observing, research, etc. So design, because design connect intellect, wisdom, feelings, pure spirit to find the solution. That is the way I see the solution to recovery and growth for wealth, prosperity, well-being, and very important, fruitful relationships. So I can see the new European Bauhaus project has to be do with wisdom, heart, and of course science. We know what Bauhaus school was. They connect wisdom, synergy with people, nature, technical science, and other aspects of knowledge. But can we do it again? I hope, because ego and money is too important nowadays. Of course, financial stability is a great importance because we can pay employees, so we can be responsible, social responsible, we can invest in development, and so on and so on. But it hasn't been the main goal. If we don't change that kind of mindset or vibrations I mentioned before, we will have to face the problems again. This critical situation we are fighting now is telling that. I believe that. I think it's enough playing with ego and money. In the game has to be also wisdom, connection with nature and people, and of course, scientific approach. Well, this is my point of view or my perspective. What is important for successful impact of project in new normal era. So thank you. I will have to go very quickly because I have another thing, but
I just want to first of all compliment you, Manka, on that analysis, because I think it's absolutely true, and I think you're also answering the question of what it is that designers can actually contribute with it, because the whole idea of connecting that you mentioned, the intellect, wisdom, empathy, but also to being able to visualize these very complex and very demanding situations, and try to and make that understandable for people so that they can discuss it on a meaningful level. I think that ability of translating knowledge, wisdom into scenarios and into some situations and sketches that people can discuss is also a very important part. But to do that, they need to understand what you're saying, that they need to detach themselves from the wealth or the ego thing, and see themselves as part of a very important value chain where they have a specific role to play that no one else can play. Because I think that is one of the keys to sort of lifting designer sort of self-esteem, to make designers aware of the fact that they are in charge of some tools and methods that no one else have. And those methods and tools, those are key to actually releasing this.
Yes, I can see through that eyes that problem, and design is really rescue tool, if I can say it like that. Because, like you already said, the design has all the how can I say, all the measurements or yes, skills how to recovery, because design is not ego. Design works for people and for nature, and here is the key, here is the solution. And I see also the solution in past knowledge with nature. We forgot that. We forgot knowledge from our grandparents, and this knowledge is old, I don't know, 10,000 years before Christus, and we forgot a lot that things. I think it's very important to wake up these things and connect with nowadays, to update with amazing science. It's happening right now. So
I totally agree, and both with the past, but also with nature. I think that trying to see how does nature solve problems can also be a very strong inspiration for how we can help solve some of these problems in the future.
Wow. Nature has laws.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, but some I think that was a very, very good sort of analysis you made there, Manka. I think that was good food for thought.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, pardon?
Yeah,
no?
It was the same thing. So
good. I was thinking, Clement, as I know that you're in between being student and being out in the real world, but how do you see our design students and the design education ready to respond to this?
Yeah, because market doesn't think so much about sustainability right now. They're all green and everything, but I don't think they think that they are working like that, like we are talking here. Because I'm working in fashion industry. 5 years ago, nobody think about sustainability or something like that. And then it was good to be eco and looks green. But I think it's more greenwashing than something else. Because, this is my point of view. We need to think in the future better materials, bigger picture of everything. Payment for people in China, around the world, pollution, everything. Yeah, that's my point of view.
But I think there's one quite interesting thing about the fashion industry, because I think most people also in the industry will agree that the fashion industry has been one of the big problems in terms of pollution, in terms of exploiting fibers and resources. But on the other hand, I see that the design, the fashion design, both the manufacturing part of it and designers, they are now extremely aware of their role and responsibility. And what I'm hoping is that they will work with this in a way so they actually find some ways of solving it. And when they have found ways of solving their sustainability solutions to their sustainability problems, then they can open up for a lot of other industries, because if you can solve it in the fashion industry, you can solve it anywhere.
Yeah.
So I think there are some very interesting things going on, and actually, as a sort of a final note, yesterday we had day before yesterday at the conference. I think it was one of the PhD students or PhDs from Faculty of Design who said something very profound, and that was we have seen. Sorry, she said the fashion industry has been part of the problem, but the fashion industry is also part of the solution. And what we then developed that into was actually one of the major roles of design in all these big issues. I think perhaps the most important role of design is to communicate in a way so that we all understand it, that we are all part of the problem, but we can all make a difference to be part of the solution. So that we're sort of lifting this up on a level where we see the role of design is actually to make us all aware of what the hell is going on and what we can do about it.
So Steiner, how do you reckon cities will change after this?
That is a big thing. Yeah. Urbanization has been sort of a mantra for many years. Density and bringing people together, sort of urban dwellings, and we saw that with Pete 2 days ago, and it is a big issue. And then suddenly, because of COVID, we see that this living closely together also not only is a health issue because people infect each other easier, but also when people are restricted from leaving their homes and stuff, you get social problems and loneliness and sort of psychological problems because people are confined in very small spaces. What we see already in Europe is that a lot of people are now moving out of the cities. And this is taking place because of COVID. The sales of, if you look at the sales of property, for 30 years, it has grown in the cities and it has declined outside of the cities. And in 1 year now, it has changed.
Sure.
People are moving out of the cities to move out in the countryside again. And I think it's probably temporary, but it is a clear reaction to the fact that, okay, if this happens again, I do not want to live in a 40 square meter apartment that I cannot leave. I want to have space and air around me. So it will have an effect, but whether it's sort of just here and now or if it will continue, that is difficult to say. But I think it has to open up some questions about, okay, if we want to go on putting people close together in cities, do we then have to do something else to make sure that if this happens again, that they can actually that they get righter?
Right. I think it's really funny because people are suddenly starting to realize that, wait a minute, remote work is actually possible to do, and it's actually easier, and you don't, like, companies don't start burning up immediately. So it's like we were suddenly forced into maybe a more digitized age where people don't have to clock in and out every day. They can work remotely, so people don't have to commute to bigger cities, and that possibly means much more of a clean way of living, because the commute, which is an hour there and an hour back with a car, suddenly isn't one anymore.
That's true, and we can see it. I live in the countryside, 1 hour away from Copenhagen, and I think this is fantastic because I can work at home, as I do now, or I can go to the city. And when I choose to go to the city, there's no traffic, so I can just go. I think it's sheer luxury, but it's still not a sustainable solution to things. I think the digitization that has sort of come because suddenly we had to work remotely has, as I said, it has made a lot of companies much more effective, and they have found ways of working that they didn't know existed. But there is also a backside to it. A lot of people are extremely lonely because their work is their primary social sort of anchor. And if they don't get to see people at work, they don't really get to see people. So we also see a quite dramatic rise now in a psychological crisis among people, professional people who are normally just on the run, but because they're working from home and cannot really go anywhere, and because they don't see people, they go down with stress because they don't have a social sort of context to sort of release their personality. So I think it's too early to say what this will be in long time, but I'm sure that it will change our way of working, and it will change what we desire in terms of living. There's no doubt about it.
Do you think that's a personality issue, though? Because introverts tend to acquire energy by not being in the presence of people, and extroverts would be the opposite of that. So maybe this time extroverts are the ones suffering and introverts are the ones thriving.
You're right. I think this is perfect for a lot of people. I have some friends. They're a couple, but they're both engineers, but they're both working in the public sector, and they've been working from home now for a year, both of them, and they're like, we've never had a better life than now. I mean, this is perfect. We can work when we want. We can, everything is, and it's for them, it's paradise. But they are not very socially dependent. They're fine with their work and their things. But other people, they go crazy, basically, because they are so dependent on interacting with people. So I don't think that one thing is better than the other, but the point is that the last year we haven't had a choice. It wasn't we who decided, it was the conditions who decided for us. And that is not good for anyone, I think.
The change wasn't such a big, issue for designers, especially the designers I know, which have usually already done not really remote work, but the work that they do is sort of an addition to some companies. So they don't actually work in the company as an in-house designer, but they do the projects, they do the websites, the logos, they do it themselves. So it didn't really change much for most of the people that I know that are designers. Interestingly enough, most of them said that they absolutely adore the current situation, because most of them are like really good designers, but really good hermits. So it's like I adore this. Like whenever there's too many people around, I just start coughing and they'll go away.
But I think that it's also a part of the design sort of community. It's very much the UX, the digital sort of area of design.
Sure.
I think if you look at a lot of people who work more with service design or product design, they might still be working on their own, but I tend to find them to be very social people. So, but I think right now we have, we don't know what's happening. We don't know what the future look like. But I think the most important thing is that no matter what comes out of this, that it will open up new opportunities. And I just hope that the design community understands that they have all it takes to respond to this.
Let me just a second. There we go. If anybody wants to join our little discussion here, the link is down below. It's also the link that's next to every live video that is playing right now. So if you're on Facebook Live, if you're on YouTube, if you're on our website, just click on the link and you can join in the discussion about COVID recovery after everybody stops eating bats and stuff. So how about, how do you think that the economy, especially the design part of the economy, will suffer from what has happened?
I don't think that the design industry as such will suffer. Temporarily, there might be less work for some kinds of designers, but I think that that will be compensated by a number of new opportunities coming up. I'm working 2 days a week as sort of responsible for sort of strategy in a design agency, and we were quite severely hit by COVID. So we went from 14 people to 8 people in 2020. But which is of course a blow, and it's terrible, and it was 2020 was a lousy year. It was big deficit and all that. But we can see already that 2021 is at least the second half of 2021 will probably be very, very good, because a lot of challenges have accumulated over this period, and a lot of new situations have occurred. We're working with the hospitals a lot, and they tried to solve the problems when they were there with leading people different ways and all that. But they were all temporary solutions. Now, when it's all sort of getting a little more sort of it's falling down, now they're starting to look for permanent solutions, and that's something they cannot do themselves. They need designers to help them with that. So I think that some design companies might not have survived COVID, but those who have, I think they will probably recover nicely, but it can take some time.
But for the industries that are currently suffering, bars, hotels, is there any logical solution for them?
Well, what we saw, let's say all the restaurants, they all developed new meal concepts, takeaway concepts, all that. And I think some of that will sort of continue after this. I think companies, no matter what kind of industry they're in, I think some companies have been able to respond by sort of adapting or changing their business model or somehow to do something intelligently. But there are others who couldn't do that, and they will probably not come back. So I think we could probably see some kind of a change of scene because of this.
It's a little sad here in Slovenia because the bars have started to respond by takeaways, but the heads up blocked the takeaways of beer and other alcoholic beverages, so we can just get coffee now. Yeah, I suffer so greatly.
Oh, yeah, I know, but I think it's been a terrible time in many ways as well. But somehow it might be because I'm older and all that. But somehow I also thought, hey, it's good to be reminded that we cannot take everything for granted all the time.
Sure.
And I think that we've had a tendency to, because we've been so damn lucky that we've lived in times where we've had growth and everything has, every year was better than the last one. And somehow I think it's not unhealthy to be reminded that, okay, there is something that we cannot control ourselves. I think that's healthy in a way. I'm not saying that it was good that it, but let's try to use it somehow constructively and take some knowledge out of it. And I think Manka was very profound in her analysis of if you want to really solve problems, you have to look at the system and the community, and the ego is not relevant any longer. I think that is quite interesting.
So the solution would be to ban Facebook and Instagram then? No more vanity posts, no more selfies.
No, I don't think that's. I don't think that's the answer to anything. But it can be that people, some people will use it differently, because there is an. I mean. I think it was who was it who told me? I know that in Cuba there is no advertising for sort of perfume and alcohol, some lifestyle product advertising. On the other side, what is called aesthetical surgery, or what is called getting bigger boobies and nicer cheekbones and all that. That is free in Cuba, but no one is using it because no one has a picture of perfection the way that we have. People don't understand, why should I have bigger boobies? Why should I do something with my face, with my lips? Because they don't have that measure of perfection that we have here, the Instagram world. So I think, the media, especially social media, are extremely powerful in terms of how they make us see the world. But I don't think that they are to blame for anything, and I don't think that they will change very much.
Sure.
Personally, I'm
still thinking about the bigger boobies in Cuba. So if I go to Cuba, I can get bigger boobies.
I'm not sure you could, but I just think it's interesting, at least that there is this very, very direct correlation between what we fill into people's head and what kind of ideals they have for a good life.
Sure.
Sure.
So the solution is just to be content with
No.
the freedoms that you have at the moment that you are given.
Yes, but I think my message is much more. If business is a little slow right now, use your time wisely by really looking at what kind of challenges is it that I could focus on, where my skills could be relevant, and that I haven't really been aware of yet. Because if there's one thing that we will never run out of, it's relevant problems to solve.
Okay. But what advice would you give, or sort of an outlook for students who feel uncertain in these times, who feel much more uncertainty than they felt a year ago?
First of all, I would say there is no reason to feel more uncertain now than a year ago, because I would say that after the discussions that sort of come in the wake of Bauhaus, the new Bauhaus and all that, I think that the job opportunities for designers, the career opportunities for designers is getting better and better every year, and it has over the last 10, 15 years. We can see that sectors that never even thought about hiring designers, they are today fully dependent on the biggest employer of designers, the individual biggest employer of designers in Europe. Who do you think that is?
I have no idea. I'm not sure I've watched any of the.
No, but it's Barclays Bank.
Okay.
They are the biggest individual employer of designers. That was unthinkable.
That's a specifically UK bank. I haven't seen Barclays in any.
No, but they're international, but they're UK based yet.
Okay. That's interesting. I would have said McDonald's or something like that.
No. And even large, I mean, really design-based companies like Audi and whatever, they do not have as many designers. IBM is also one of, I think Barclays is Europe's biggest, and IBM is the world's biggest employer of designers.
Okay.
And that only shows that the whole the digital sort of revolution has brought with it a need for user experience design that we didn't know about before. But I think what's interesting is that we've seen that user experience, which is sort of connected to the digital domain, when companies see that designers can deal with that, they also sort of understand somehow that designers can also deal with other kinds of experiences. So very often companies start hiring UX designers, but then they add on with designers who then also start working with internal organizations, with customer care, with all kinds of other parts of the business. So my postulate would be that the really poor employment figures that we've seen for designers in general over many years, they are. I don't think that they will disappear once and for all, but I think the employment opportunities for designers is bigger today than any time before, and it will continue to become more and more interesting.
What's your opinion about the globalization aspect of this? Because since the possibility of remote work is so prevalent, we now have many billions of additional competition entering the market from English-speaking countries and from non-English-speaking countries that can do design well.
But
Well
there is
enough
nothing,
to compete, at
there
least.
is nothing new in that domain, because Bangalore has been the hotspot for web development for 10, 15 years. And clearly there is a strong competition from low-cost countries when it comes to design, which is fairly manual. It's to set up stuff and to do, if it's mechanical design in the way that you tell someone what to do and they do it, that's so easy to buy anywhere. But I don't think that neither Indian designers or Chinese designers or any other sort of low cost country designers or web DTPers that they can do what a trained designer can do. The whole thing about this, the wisdom, the intellect, the empathy, what Manka talked about, and the whole understanding of this complexity, they have no chance because they don't have any mental framework for that. So I think what can be bought in low-cost countries will be bought in low-cost countries, but design is something totally different, in my opinion.
Sure, but you can also move to a low-cost country and then be more, make the price more cheaper or increase your margin rate.
Sure, and that's a fantastic opportunity for whoever wants to do that. I just don't think that there are so many of them.
You could move to Bali and.
Well, I know.
We don't know the book.
No, but yeah, but depending on what kind of dreams you have, my family-in-law is French, and part of the family lives in New Caledonia, which is way out beyond New Zealand, out in the Indian Ocean. It's like a paradise island, and I've been there, spent time there, and I would, I could never live there. It's great to go there, visit, pick avocados in the garden, and sail and snorkel and all that. But I couldn't live there. I don't think that we will see a sort of a stream of people moving from Europe to low-cost countries just because the sun is shining.
Well, it's not only the sun is shining. You could move to Cuba and get big boobies.
That's a different story.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think that there's a lot of questions out there.
Yeah, we do not have. Let me just check if there are comments, but nobody has.
No, there's nothing
next to it, to us. So, do you have any questions for Clement? Like students' outlook on the whole situation or something?
Well, but I tried to ask Clement, what do you think? How do designers see this? I don't, I was in Ljubljana, when was it? October 19. I was there for 3 days doing workshops. And then last year I did a digital workshop with visual communication. I think you were involved then as well, Delvin. Possibly. And what I just experience every time, not only in Ljubljana, but at design schools, is that when you start talking about, okay, you're visual designers and you can do branding and you can do this and you can do that, but you can also use it in a new context. And it's like, oh yeah, right. But then slowly it grows on the students, and the engagement that I saw in October, and which I referred to on Tuesday, was immense. I mean, I've never seen a change in students over 3 days. It's such a great change from being a little sort of yeah, okay, but try to tell us something interesting, okay, and then to becoming truly engaged and making some really seriously good design in 3 days by choosing what kind of problems they thought were interesting, and they were extremely different from just sorting waste as a very sort of day-to-day banal problem to really saving the world kind of issues. So I think what I experience is that designers are just not aware of how many interesting challenges they could have worked with if they just allowed themselves to do it.
Okay. So Clement, any last words?
Thank you for your presentation and everything I heard today. It was nice to hear.
Well, I thank you for listening. I hope that someone was out there listening as well, and then let's just hope that at least we can continue the discussion at Faculty of Design, because for me, Faculty of Design is it's a different design school than most others, but it's also it has an energy and a level of ambition that I think is fantastic. So I think it's just great to be part of this.
Super.
Okay. Have a wonderful day, Steiner.
Thanks a lot, Clement. Thanks a lot, Domen.
Hopefully, we will see each other soon. This time, not on any video chat
screen.
I'll probably say hello next time.
We can, so then we can get beers and big boobies.
Okay.
Take care.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye now.